In response to the Eric Garner story, white people took to Twitter and opened up about their experiences with the police. They used the hashtag criming while white. So let me give you a few of these so you can see the difference in the mentality of the police when it comes to white people versus black people. By and large, of course, we're not talking about all. This isn't 100% black and white, funny to use that term, deal, where it's like every cop is like this, or every cop is bad, or every, person has the exact same experiences. But this does still lend some credibility to the basic ideas that we've spoken about on the show within the past few days in the wake of the Eric Garner situation, in the wake of the Michael Brown situation. And some of these, we don't know, these aren't all verified, but some of them for sure are real stories, and it still speaks to a true trend overall. So let me give you some of these. One says, arrested for DUI, cop took me to drive through ATM so I'd have money to bail myself out. Hashtag criming while white. Wow. Another one, quote, friend with suspended license gets flat tire, pulled over in someone else's car. Cop says he will use my license as the passenger. Hashtag criming while white. So they're helping you. If you're hurt, they really help you. They're looking out for you. It's actually doing what cops are supposed to do in a weird way, right? It's the idea that we're going to protect and serve you, and to the point where they sometimes even bend over backwards a little bit to do just that. More. Hashtag criming while white. Arrested for stealing street signs Christmas Eve back in high school. Probation waived as it would interfere with drama club. I wonder if somebody named Jamal had the same experience with the cops. Played with realistic toy guns my entire childhood, wherever we wanted. Hashtag criming while white. That one I can totally relate to, because I did the same thing. I would be outside playing with toy guns all the time. And of course, this is a reference to the situation that happened recently where a 12-year-old black kid was gunned down by an officer within 2 seconds of pulling up on the scene when he was using a toy gun. And even in the 911 call, the person said, I think it might be a toy gun he's using. The cops didn't do any fact-finding, didn't figure out anything, just pulled up, started firing, and killed the kid. So there is a difference for sure versus black and white there. Next one. My 13-year-old son and his friends were loitering at Walgreens recently. Only his black friend got searched for shoplifting. Hashtag criming while white. Now, again, that's something that I can somewhat relate to because I remember when I was in elementary school, there weren't as many black kids in each class as there were white kids. There'd be like 4 or 5 black kids in the class, and it'd be like, 18 white kids or so. And it happened in multiple grades with multiple teachers. If a white kid acts up, they get more of like a simmer down, kids. If a black kid acts up, it was more go to the principal's office. It was be harsher in your crackdown. They're speaking to the same thing there. All right, next one. Ticket for going 120. No license. Judge let me off and said, quote, you go to too good a school to be so dumb, so I assume you aren't. Hashtag criming while white. I was 20, stopped by cop at gas station, under the influence and underage. He flirted with me, then let me drive home. Hashtag criming while white. And finally, in high school, I got in a 3-car wreck that might have been my fault. The cop told me it was the illegal alien's fault. Hashtag criming while white. Now, let me also tell my own story. I know my story is a little silly, but nonetheless, I think it speaks to the same idea here. So, when I was in high school, see, again, I know this sounds silly, but I'm half Italian, and especially when I was younger, when I would go out in the sun, I wouldn't really burn. I would get very dark, okay? And there were times where it was the summer, I was really tan. I've always worn earrings ever since I was a kid. Right now, I have hoops on. I've worn hoops for the longest time. It's just something I've always done. But back then, I had diamond studs. So I had diamond studs. I was really tan. I have tattoos on my arms. And I used to, when I was a little punk high school kid, wear a bandana. So picture me looking like that, okay, really tan, tattoo showing, studs in, bandana on, while I'm in high school, driving in the passenger seat with my buddy, who looks a lot like me as well in that same way, and we're driving, and look, the music I listen to, I happen to like rap and R&B, and the music was somewhat loud, windows down, and we were driving. We got pulled over, and they gave my friend a ticket for loud music. At the time, I didn't even know that was a thing. I still don't know if that's a thing. Like, loud music ticket? What are you talking about? And then later on, I was able to piece together, oh, okay, I just experienced what minorities experience every day. And by the way, if you're a minority, you don't have to have earrings and tattoos and wear a bandana in order to be assumed, oh, it must be a bad guy. It's immediately just the default is might be dangerous. So that was my only time in my life where I had the experience, and I realized. Now, I also had the reverse experience where I was able to benefit from the fact that I'm a white dude. So my father, who's passed away, he died a while ago now, but when I was a kid, like when I first got my license, I got a bunch of tickets. And some were legit, some of them weren't. I remember one time I got a cell phone ticket, and I wasn't on my cell phone. I was driving with my hand, kind of on the rest and like pressing my cheek and driving with one hand. And the cop pulled up next to me, then gave me a ticket. And I think I piled up 3 tickets. And it got to the point where I don't know how the point system works exactly, but I was, maybe was going to have my license suspended or revoked or something like that. I don't remember all the details. But my father, who, when he was alive, he owned a Chevy dealership. So he was pretty well off. I grew up solidly upper middle class. Later on, he sold the dealership and then blew all the money in the stock market, so we became middle class, no longer upper middle class. But that's a different conversation. But he knew people, so he spoke to the judge because he knew the judge. He played a round of golf with the judge, and then the judge just threw out all my tickets. He's like, okay, gone. Don't worry about it. Done. Now, of course, from an individual perspective, anybody has the same reaction. They're like, awesome, that's fantastic. But then when you think about it, you go, oh, but this is what people talk about when they mean white privilege. And also it speaks to if you have connections, the world runs on nepotism. And this isn't a system based on merit. It's not a system where justice is applied equally. So if a kid in Harlem had those tickets, he wouldn't have to pay them also. No, he would have to pay them, right? I didn't have to pay them because of the situation I was in. This is the point that people are making. And this is what specifically white people need to understand, is that don't arrogantly walk around like you haven't had the system set up in your favor. If you're benefiting from the system, at least acknowledge that you're benefiting from the system. Don't be arrogant and obnoxious about it and act like the justice system is perfectly blind and perfectly equal in how they look at situations. And, well, the Eric Garner situation, for example, well, that was there's supposed to be no indictment because that's what the grand jury said and the case wasn't thrown and that's just the justice system works. Bullshit. Bullshit. We all know it's bullshit, and all these examples prove it, and even my personal examples prove it.